Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulullah. Jazakumullah khair everyone for joining this very important training. This is as important as giving street dawah or any other dawah, because after the Shahadah, the real work starts to keep the new Muslim brother and sister on the right path and train them. Alhamdulillah, we have Coach Zubair with us. He will be teaching us how to handle it after the Shahada, any new Muslim brother or sister. Before that, I want to introduce what is Dawah Canada. Alhamdulillah, we started street Dawah about 10 years ago, mainly at the intersection of Ontario and Dundas in Mississauga. And Alhamdulillah, we have expanded now. We are doing street Dawah at Oakville, at Ottawa regularly, Alhamdulillah. And we have a team in Edmonton and inshallah Niagara Falls as well. So if you want to join our Dawah team, please send us an email at volunteer@dawahcanada.com. And we'll be inshallah contacting you for any further information. So without any further ado, I will hand it over to Brother Zubair. Please start your training, inshallah. We'll be recording and we'll be posting this on our YouTube channel as well, inshallah. Brother Zubair.
Okay, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah. After that, thanks to the brothers and the team of Dawah Canada for the opportunity of letting me share some of our work and also learn from you guys, because that's the point of life, because there's a lot of importance on questions and ideas that come in. So inshallah, we'll keep an eye on the chat. So try to be as interactive as possible. Due to time and trying to maximize the benefit, we won't do a lot of breaks and for questions. I mean, when I ask you a question and whatnot, to try to be as interactive as possible as we go along, inshallah. With that, okay, I guess you guys can see my screen. Everything looks good. Alhamdulillah. So let's formally begin. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. I'll explain in a second why these pictures are on the screen. Okay. All right. So yeah, just a brief background. I have, alhamdulillah, several years of experience working with a whole variety of new Muslims. The reason I mentioned that is that's what I would be sharing with you, right? A lot of that is supposed to be practical on why we do things the way we do things. And hopefully there will be a lot of stereotypes and myths that will be broken today, inshallah. Okay, this stuff, inshallah, Atiq or Naveed will share with you later on, the slides and all that, where you can get that. You can contact me here if we need to. Okay, so just a quick reminder, I think in general, right, the 4 gifts that we get when we try to get together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering him, and especially for masajid, but inshallah, with the mercy of Allah, for online as well. So that's just also a reminder to be part of such gatherings and whatnot. And as we know from the famous hadith, the angels surround them, Allah's mercy envelops them, sakina or tranquility descends upon them, and Allah makes a mention before those who are near to him, right? So imagine how today, when we get a like or a share or a follow from some prominent figure, or even our friends, we feel good about it. So just imagine if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions us, how would that be? So may Allah make us from them. Quick reminder, I hope you guys know what that is. If you know what that is, please put it in the chat and tell me what's the difference between this thing that we are seeing on the screen and tap, right? So if you have tap water that we have, or I guess if you go to ISNA or a relatively more modern place, you can just put your hands under the tap and the water would come in. So what's the difference between that and this? Effort, yes. So as long as you keep pumping, you will keep getting the value. So I know today's time, we are more concerned about the speaker, the trainer, and the jokes and the comedy and articulation and what have you. But we forget a very important thing as learners, that the more effort you put in, the more focused you are, the more value you will get out of it. And if you're not distracted and multitasking, especially those who are watching the recording, same thing applies. A lot of time we watch recording in background and then we have like 20 tabs open and we're doing 20 things. So the results will be different than someone who is pumping. Okay, so keep pumping, inshallah. May Allah bless us with knowledge, wisdom, and the tawfiq, which is facilitations and the rewards. So I think most of you have been part of some Dawah group. Put in the chat, about your experience inviting non-Muslim, if you have been doing that, or if you have worked with new Muslim, put that in the chat, inshallah. That will be helpful to see who is who and what sort of audience we have here, inshallah. So same thing, right? So from a non-Muslim to the Shahadah, then the Shahadah is Salah. If you have done any of that, put that in, inshallah, in the chat. Okay, so the training has been divided. Yeah, so keep doing the chat. I do keep an eye on the chat as well. So the training has been divided into 6 modules. The 6th one is sort of an optional. If we get the 5 done properly, I think that would be a good solid training. The first module will talk about these 4 ideas. Just a quick reminder and motivation for Dawah. What is Dawah about? What does Dawah mean to you? Different people have different meanings and metrics for Dawah. And then does the Dawah end at the Shahadah, or does it continue, or should it continue? Why should it continue? And one very important thing that, many times I don't see that mentioned as much. So I do like to highlight that, like any activity, anyways, I'll talk about the risk and to the du'ats when we get there, inshallah. Let me not get into it right now. Okay, the module 2 will be talking about who's a new Muslim? How do you understand a new Muslim? Are all new Muslims same? What's the difference? What are some of the elements you can use to do some sort of understanding of a new Muslim? What milestones do we have for a new Muslim, right? Is it even worth spending time with new Muslim? What's the success stories that we can share, inshallah? And then we'll walk away with a refined perspective of a new Muslim for most of you. Inshallah, the way you see a new Muslim would change after that module, inshallah. We'll talk about how some suggestions on how to set up a revert or convert success team, and what are some of the elements of it, some individuals of it, some roles of it that you can inshallah utilize. Module 4 will be the crux of the mentoring or the buddying program. How do you find new Muslim? How do you introduce yourself? A plan, resources, common obstacles, and so on and so forth. And then module 5 is going to be the regular work and some structure around that. And then module 6 is more around, personal development of new Muslims and, how to deal with those type of things. So that's the module. That's a stretch goal. If we get there, alhamdulillah. If not, I think we'd be good with first 5 modules as well. So let's get into the first module. Why do I have, fancy cars as my picture? That would become clear. I'm sure most of you, or a lot of you, have guessed it. So the point is, the idea is that, look, what happens is sometimes we value different things, right? So initially I showed you like balloons, and I showed you a kid or a child, and I showed you like a car keys. The point is that sometimes like a child may not realize the value of the car keys, right? If that belongs to a fancy, Porsche or BMW or then, what have you. And they would just say, hey, you know what? I'm attracted towards balloon because they're colorful, they look fancy and what have you. They go up in the air. So the child may not pick the car keys because he or she is not able to see that. People who are into investment can also relate to it with real estate and different, investment portfolios that come in. At some point, you don't value something, but then it becomes, very valuable, or vice versa. So obviously, this is the reason I wanted to mention that, the famous hadith that we have from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that by Allah, if a single person is guided by Allah through you, it will be better for you than a whole bunch of red camels. So perhaps we don't value red camels, right? They are quite expensive. I was just being told that yesterday or the day before. A camel costs a lot. But however, perhaps we can relate to the cars or houses or what have you that are precious to us. Another point that we have is obviously Surah Al-Asr, right? So the components mentioned in Surah Al-Asr, as you know, what are the last 2 components of Surah Al-Asr that are related to Dawah? I hope somebody can put in the chat. Don't need to mention that. Come on, do it.
تواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
All right, great, fantastic, right? So encouraging each other to be patient and to be persistent on the haqq, right? So you are not just, focused on yourself, but rather you're also looking at people around you. So in general, right, if you take a look at what is life for you. So a lot of people, life is only about them, their job, perhaps children, houses and furniture and car and parties and different, dawahs that are happening and whatnot, and what's happening with other people, what's happening with the masjid board. There are a lot of pathetic things or small issues that people engage in. However, if you have a mission in life, whether it be dawah or something else, your life becomes more focused. Your quality of life increases. You have more focus. You don't want to waste your time because you have something that you can actually contribute to without just like talking about other people, right? You raise your standard. You try to improve yourself beyond your job, beyond beyond your basic things, because now you're also trying to contribute and work on a project together with the like-minded brothers and sisters. And obviously, it being extra deep, right? So from the famous hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hadith Qudsi, that in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that you keep getting closer and closer to Allah by the actions we do. So the fara'id, the obligations, are the actions that will get you closest to Allah. And then after that are the voluntary things. So in many cases, without going into the details of the dawah being fard ayn or fard kifaya and what have you, at the very least, everybody agrees that this is one of the great voluntary deeds to do, and that will get you closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so that was hopefully a quick rundown of a reminder for most of you. I'm sure that you're here so you understand the importance of dawah. Now, this is something many people don't think about, or if you think about it, it's good to kind of reset and re-understand what does dawah mean to you. Okay, so for some people, dawah could be creating interest, right? That's why you see a lot of famous people saying on social media that dawah is by your manners only. Okay, yes, it has some value. I don't really agree with that notion. I mean, how many times your coworker asks you about what's your religion, right? Just because of your manners, if you don't mention about fasting or salah or anything related to your religion, so something to think about, right? I mean, business people don't do that. They don't just like say, you are nice and don't drop you a business card and what have you. But anyways, you could do that to some extent, or you can just like share a business card or a website or a pamphlet. Dawah Canada is coming up with, Eid cards, right? Mashallah. So something like that, you can distribute those Eid card with a sweet or something with your neighbors or friends or colleagues. That can create some interest, right? It can give you an opportunity to start a conversation if you want to, or if you don't want to, I'm sure that there would probably be some link or something on that card that the people that are receiving the card can visit. So that's called creating interest, right? So that's all you want to do, and that's fine. Sometimes creating interest and then you connecting them to, Atiq or Naveed or some of the other senior members. We do the same thing at our masjid. We ask the community to bring your friends and neighbors and colleagues. So a friend would create interest and then they would pass it on to someone else. That's a great way of doing dawah as well. But then they understand that, okay, this is my focus, this is how I do dawah. The second category or second way of doing it is actually have conversation, dialogue, and so on and so forth. And perhaps also inviting them to take the Shahadah. Okay. Now, the third level is what we are here for, is that you just don't leave them at that verbal, intellectual acceptance of Islam, but then you also work towards connecting and bridging that intellectual or verbal acceptance to the practice of Islam. Okay. So that's just something you need to think about, like, as individuals and as teams as well, right? That, for example, now Dawah Canada is looking into, right? Because they think as a team that our job is not to just hand out pamphlets or have a conversation, take the Shahadah and then stop. No, what can we do to continue that process, right? So that goes a long way. Many teams don't think about it, right? Just something to think about. What is your mission as a team and what is your mission as an individual? Okay, so once you've described or figured out what your goal is, then how do you measure success? That's also very important, because that can either give you motivation, or you might get burnt out. So that's something very important to define. So some examples, some people look at the number of views they have on YouTube or the number of likes they have on their page and so on and so forth. Some people look at it as a number of shahadahs, right? Some people look at it as a number of people that you're working with, or the volunteer base or what have you. Or what you can actually look at is, what is your commitment, right? So if you are committed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, my Friday evening or my Saturday morning or 2 hours a week or whatever it is, how consistent I am, right? Regardless of what's happening, right? So sometimes, for example, if there's a celebrity da'i and, Atiq or Naveed brings them on board and you're all rushing to give da'wah, that's a different level of person than someone who's saying, hey, you know what? I'm this every Saturday morning, whether there's a celebrity, whether there's a camera or not camera, I'm there, I'm doing my work, right? That's a different type of person. So just something to think about, like, what is my metric? What is my commitment? Am I only going to be motivated if there is camera? Am I only going to be motivated if a celebrity speaker is there? Am I only going to be motivated if I have an X number of shahada, and so on and so forth? Okay, so now we've talked about a few things, right? Why is dawah important? What kind of dawah you are doing? And then we talked about how do you measure results? What do you look for, for success? How do you measure success? How do you measure progress? Now we're talking about, well, why should we consider post Shahadah? Why don't we just leave it at that, like having Shahadah and then move on? So here are some of the things that look, people are taking Shahadah. Dawah is, alhamdulillah, compared to 5 years or 10 years ago, it's quite popular now, right? I mean, it is popular. It is financially lucrative as well. So there's a lot of value in Dawah. Alhamdulillah, it's picking up, and that's a good thing, right? But now I think one of the things that we need to think of as community is always, reanalyze, right? And that's what, smart people or businesses do, right? They go and they launch something, but they don't get like, satisfied with what's happening, and they always keep up with what's going on. So I'm sure like you guys have seen those Nokia phones, right? The small phones without what people would call dumb phones now. Obviously at some point they were like a breakthrough, right? Compared to the landlines, you had those small phones. For those of you who are not too young, you would remember that. Where's Nokia phones, right? So Nokia got like, totally taken over by the new market. So that's important to understand, as you do one thing, what else can be done? What's the new gap? What's the new challenge? So now Dawah is active, but what's the new challenge, right? Many people don't think about what's going on. I see Shahadahs, in the masjid, or I see Shahadah on the social media, but I don't see that many new Muslims in Jumu'ah or Eid or other Salah. So what's going on? Where are those new Muslims, right? So that's the question that kind of got me triggered into this journey of, diving in and understanding what's going on with new Muslims. And that's what I will be sharing with you today, inshallah. So what does Quran say about developing new Muslims, right? Or not abandoning them? So think about, if you can think of any verses, any examples, put that in the chat. Obviously, in a second or two, I'll be bombarding through my content, but those few seconds you've got to put on the chat, inshallah. So one thing, this is very important, Surah Al-Nahl, verse number 692 in chapter 16, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, this is not directly to new Muslim, but it's a good principle, right? وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّتِي نَقَضَتْ غَزْلَهَا مِنْ بَعْدِ قُوَّةٍ أَنْكَاثًا. Do not be like that woman who undoes the thread that she has spun after it became strong, right? So not to undo your work. So the reason I bring that up is, I've seen it many times, with du'as. I've been on the street dawah, I've been on different stages of dawah, the spectrum of dawah, the da'i would work so hard, practice the arguments and watch the YouTube and this and that and read so many books and go and give dawah, take the Shahadah and, say, what, mashallah, tabarakallah, brother, go to the masjid. Like, subhanAllah, to me, that's like, undoing your work. Or maybe there's some false hope there, right? It doesn't work like that, right? I mean, no businessman would do it. I mean, people who are in the masajid, even the masajid administration don't do it, right? They want your information. I mean, look at this. Like, let me pick on Atik here, right? Dawah Canada gave you this, seminar, but they asked you for your email. They're going to be following up. They want you to volunteer with them, and that's a great thing, and that's a smart thing to do, right? What's the point of creating the webinar, getting together, but not following up? So how can some Dawah teams then, just give the Shahadah and not worry about the new Muslim? That's not a smart thing to do, in my opinion. Okay, let's take a look at Hadith, right? Many people say, oh, this is prophetic Dawah and prophetic mission. Well, this is the prophetic mission that I'll tell you, without any marketing. Look at that. So the Prophet ﷺ told Mu'adh radiallahu anh, when he was going to Yemen, they called them to Tawheed. Is that it? No, the Hadith did not end. Okay, so now you've got the Tawheed, the Shahadah, then you call them to Salah, then you call them to Zakah, and so on and so forth. So this is all part of that prophetic mission. It's not just the Dawah, Shahadah, and move on to the next person. So this is the prophetic mission, the full Hadith. Okay, now beyond that, imagine if you have a competitor, right, that's taking away your clients, your audiences. Would you not protect your clients? So the competitor that we have here is Shaitan. He's taking away the people that you're giving Shahadah to. He's taking them right next hour. Don't you want to protect them from them? Okay, so that was it. Now I'm going to mention the last thing, as I said, the nail in the coffin. Let's see if anybody can think of the ayah I was thinking about. I haven't seen anything on the chat. So you had a good 5 minutes to put that on the chat. I didn't see anything. I'm sure everybody knows this verse and probably have memorized it as well. Look at that. Surah Abbas, right? Beautiful example, right? So you had that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was being approached by a Muslim, right? Or if you want a new Muslim, sorry about that. And then at the same time, you had like an influential non-Muslim that was being given dawah, right? And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed and prioritized giving dawah or taking care of a new Muslim or someone who is seeking knowledge or over, someone who is not. A very famous example, right? However, we're not saying that we should all start working on the new Muslims or the Muslims in our community that are not practicing. I think this is a great verse number 122 in chapter 9, Surah Tawbah, right? Of having a balance, right? Some people doing that and some people doing the other, or multiple roles and things like that. I think that is something that we can apply here, inshallah. All right. So with that, we have jumped into the last topic of this module, and that is, what is profit and loss? What are some of the risks to du'at? Okay, so I'm going to slow down. I think they're doing good on time, so I'll give you guys time to respond now. So imagine there's a business, right? It has a lot of sales, but still is not making profits. Okay, so whatever business you can think of, right? Maybe they are selling barbecue, right? Burgers, right? So they have a lot of sales, maybe 1,000 burgers a day. But at the end of the day, the owner is like, hey, I don't have money to pay you salaries. What is going wrong? There's a lot of sales. So why is the money not coming in? What can be going wrong in that business? Wrong pricing, okay. What does that mean? You guys are live, right? Atik is not selling me bots like Twitter sold bots to Elon, right? Yes, not a profitable margin, right? So your expenses are higher than the sell price, right? Yes, good. So that's one thing. Okay, good. Now so that's it, right? So the first thing is expensive. Okay, so the owner, female or male, doesn't matter, he or she took your advice and he or she fixed the price. Okay, now every burger they sell, they're making profit. Then the owner got like approached by all these Amazon guys, and he started an online business. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna sell beard oil. Okay, and he now understands the pricing. He's selling beard oil. Every oil he's making a lot of good profit, even after shipping and everything. But then again, he looks at his monthly balance and it's low. But now he's selling on Amazon. What could go wrong? Okay, so price is fine, shipping is taken care of. Yeah, all the fees, Amazon cut, everything is included. So marketing is good, right? That's why a lot of sales are happening. Sure. So you go on Amazon, right? So all the costs are taken into account. Every product that you ship, including shipping cost, everything, you are making money, right? But there's one thing that happens in Amazon, and because of that, he's not making money. So he doesn't realize it until when he looks at the balance sheet. There's no cost. There's no cost, Naveed. No, sales are still happening. Even though there's competition, sales are happening. Yeah, bad after sale policy. Okay, what does that mean? Let's think about it. You're getting closer. So what happens if I take a product and I don't like it? Returns, there you go. Okay, mashallah. Halim and Naveed both got it at the same time. Yes, returns, right? People return the product then. So when the products are returned, then that's it. So why is that really important for us? Okay, so two things are happening for us. Look, so Atik goes in and Naveed goes in and he builds up a team of 100 du'as, let's say. Okay, so that's his investment. Now, those 100 du'as, when they were living a life as a Muslim before Dawah, right? Now, if after Dawah their relationship with Allah drops, is that a loss? That's a form of a refund, right? Because he started with 100 du'as, and instead of them growing, they are now dropping in their relationship with Allah. So that's a loss. That's a refund in a way. Okay, another form of refund that happens is the refund of new Muslims. Yes, you have 20 Shahadahs, but tomorrow those 20 people or 19 people are not living as Muslim. So those are also refunds that we need to think about. So coming back to the loss of the du'as, here are some of the things, okay? So a da'i gets into dawah, right? You know, with the social media challenges and everything, he or she loses sincerity. Big loss, right? You were way better off just doing your regular private ibadah than losing sincerity or chasing money, or, you know, may Allah protect us, you know, the women issue, some of that we have seen in the dawah scene. The reason I'm mentioning this is so that you are prepared, right? I like to use the example that, look, when I go, you know, when I walk to the masjid or I walk to the store, I don't have to take any protection. But if I start bicycling, then I have to wear a helmet, right? If I start driving or sitting as a passenger in the car, I should be wearing a seatbelt. So depending on the environment you are, the protection changes with the risk change, okay? So just something to keep in mind. The second thing is very, very important. Let's see if someone can understand. What do I mean by desensitization? That's a big issue. Let's see if you can tell me what desensitization is.
When you slowly get used to something, something that was not, something that shocked you in the beginning, but slowly you get used to it.
Okay, so how can it affect the da'i himself or herself?
It would become something like a routine, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, but yeah, so how can it affect you, right? Your own performance, right?
But like you look at the goal and then you don't work on the goal. Like, you know, you make them become Muslim and that's it, and then you leave them. So you're becoming desensitized, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You're just looking for goal,
but your
sorry.
salah, sorry, yeah, that's fine. Your salah and your salah, your siyam, your nawafil are not, they are still intact, right? Okay, good. So I'm going to give you this, and that's why it's very, very important, right? People don't think about it until you're too deep into it. So please pay attention to it. Look, there are many sins that happen. Everybody has a different threshold, right? I mean, for example, like, you know, I come from a Pakistani background, you know, in my culture or what have you, you know, it's very common for people not to pray, right? You know, I mean, Allah protect us, like, you know, people wouldn't raise eyebrows if they see you not praying, or if you miss Fajr, or, you know, you're late night in the da'wah and, you know, you miss Salah and what have you. It's not considered a big deal. May Allah protect us. So they have become desensitized to missing Salah. Okay. Now, at the same time, if someone, may Allah protect us, was to drink alcohol, it will be a big deal. Oh, you drink alcohol. I hope it's still like that, right? But it's still, you know, it will be taken as a big deal. Right? So even though leaving Salah is a bigger sin than alcohol, people's desensitization level or sensitization level is different. Okay. So the point I was saying is that before Dawah, you know, there were certain things that I used to consider, like, you know, really big, and, you know, I wouldn't talk about it, and a'udhu billah, what have you. Now, obviously, I work a lot with non-Muslims, deemed Muslims, and, you know, they do all those sins, right? Including leaving prayer, including leaving Jum'ah, and, you know, I have to adopt and I have to accommodate, and that's fine, right? But what happens over time, if these are the people that you're hanging out with, you know, the famous hadith of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when it comes to the matters of dunya, look at people below you, so you'll be grateful. But when it comes to the matter of the deen, look at people above you, right? So imagine if I'm only spending time around those people that I'm trying to help, you know, I'll be like, yeah, it's okay, Zubair, you know, just pray your fardest. Okay, you can skip some, you don't have to fast extra, you don't have to read nafil, you don't have to seek knowledge, you know. So your paradigm, your perspective changes. So you have to be really, really careful of how you balance it, right? And the way you can do that is making sure if you're spending, let's say, 1 hour, 2 hours in dawah, you have people that you're hanging out with that you can look up to. You are going to the classes, you're going to the halaqah, you're reading, maybe Riyadh al-Salihin and other books that will encourage you to increase your worship and your commitment and to stay away from sins, even though you're not saying all that to the new Muslim, because you have to gradually develop them, but you in your own personal life, are aware, right? And another hadith is that we know basically the 3 levels of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar, right? One is to stop the munkar. You can't do that with a new Muslim, right? The second is to use your tongue. Many times you won't be able to do that, because if you do it, you have to prioritize issues. You won't be able to talk about everything, right? Otherwise, the person will leave Islam and be like, oh, that's too much, I'm out. But the third thing is to, know it bad and to hate it and not to like it in your heart. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize, to protect it. And the way you can do it, one thing is to keep connection with the ulama, with the scholars, with the du'as, and keep going to the halaqah and what have you. And don't just become 100% in dawah and new Muslim work. Protect yourself first and foremost as well. Make sure your own iman and your own practice is up to date. So, and you're getting some, either company or lectures or halaqah, whatever, to keep you motivated. I hope that concept is clear. This is very important, because this is about us, right? Before we build someone else, we have to protect us. If it's not clear, please let me know. Because right now I'm just talking about you as a da'i, right? Not someone else, right? We'll talk about it later, okay? The other point is confusion, okay? So that's another thing, we have to play in our weight class, as they say, right? So if you're playing any sport, you play with someone, who is close to your level or maybe slightly above your level. You don't want to play with someone who is like, an athlete and you are just a casual amateur player, right? Same thing goes with like, the COVID, right? We take protection, we use sanitizers or masks or gloves, because we don't want to expose ourselves to something that we're not ready, okay? The reason I'm saying this is sometimes what also happens is someone would say, I want to get into dawah, and he or she will just like be watching YouTube all day long. Many people come to me, right? Just being part of the masjid and being part of the dawah, people come to me and they're like, I don't feel it and I'm confused. And like, subhanAllah, why did you have to expose yourself? Like, you are going and you are watching all the debates, you're watching all the comments on YouTube, right? Anybody can comment anything. Now you don't have the time to go and read everything and rebuttal everything. It's like germs, right? You are exposing yourself, imagine, to a COVID ward without protection. Like, why would you do that? Now you have to get treatment for yourself. So make sure you just don't go and play outside of your weight class. It's not that the treatment doesn't exist. It's just like, do you have the time to now read all the philosophy beyond it and respond to it? You can pick the audience you're interacting with. You don't have to expose yourself to everything out there, right? Because then you would need cleansing. Do you have the time to cleanse yourself? Do you have someone who will spend the time on you to cleanse yourself? So just be careful, right? Don't go and expose yourself to things that are not beneficial to you, right? You can do, there are many different types of people. There are people who are philosophers. There are people who are, enemies of Islam. There are people who are neutral. You can choose who you are doing dawah to, right? You can choose the content you're watching on the internet. So be wise, don't go get yourself hurt, then not find time to fix yourself or not find anyone to help you. So just be careful about that as well. So that was my last point on that topic of protecting yourself. Any questions about that? And if you don't agree with the idea, you can feel free to challenge as well. That's how we learn from each other, inshallah. Okay. So the slide kind of went out of order.
I just wanted to mention something. I thought the opposite, because you are trying to, when they ask you questions, and you're trying to prove how Islam is right, shouldn't it make you stronger in your faith? But I guess sometimes the opposite happens.
Yes, the point is, that's why I said, like in your weight class, right? So it depends. So for example, like someone can now come up with like, for example, I personally don't go into philosophy, right? Like people who are, master's level of philosophy and whatnot, like I don't find it as an effective way of dawah. I don't find it interesting. So I don't deal with that topic, right? So if someone is at that level, I'm out. I know my audience, right? That I can, have an effective dawah with. Yes, now if I take that challenge and I learn philosophy and whatnot, I can be effective, right? It will increase me in that conversation. However, another important point is, so two things. One, So here, so look, I mean, so when you learn something, right, you take the Dawah Canada training or some other training, you're at a certain level, you can have a conversation with a whole wide variety of people, okay? So this is your scope, this is your weight class, okay? The second level is basically, you know, other people who may be like more complex and they may be using jargon that you're not even familiar with. Now you have two options. Either you spend time and learn all that and then you respond to it, or you don't have time or you don't have the resources and now you are like wobbly and confused. So the second thing is, even if you spend time and you learn all that jargon, you're getting intellectually smarter. It doesn't mean that will increase you in the love of Allah, right? Not all knowledge will increase you in the love of Allah. Some knowledge is just like verbal logic and philosophy and jargon. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying that be careful of what you choose. Don't be on an autopilot mode that I have to get into everything and anything. All right. So after that, I think we already talked about the expenses part, right? The refund stuff, right? This is not related to new Muslim. Okay, so with that, what you have the ability, again, is first and foremost yourself, right? You can't change people, you can't change the world. The most influence that you have is on your own self. So these are your decisions that you can make. One second. Yeah, what will you spend your time on? You know, how do you want to break down your time between yourself and family and job and work and learning and dawah and so on and so forth? The people that you hang out with, right? What will you focus on and what will you do, right? So these are some of the things that you have in your control. Good. So we just completed module 1. So with that, I think we are at 7:48-ish. Okay, so we have a 2 minutes break. You're welcome to put in questions or talk, or just like, you know, just walk up and take a walk or take a sip of water or what have you. And we'll take a 2 minutes break, inshallah.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, everyone can see Brother Zubair's screen? It's your video, Brother Zubair, right? There is no slideshow or anything else.
Oh, there isn't?
No, we have been watching only your face, actually.
I can see them. I can see it.
There you go. Alhamdulillah.
Oh, I see a slideshow.
We can see it, yeah.
You can see the slideshow?
Yeah.
Maybe I think you didn't buy the premium ticket.
I can't see, and Brother Zubair actually mentioned that he can't see the screen. So that's why I'm asking.
Maybe try. Maybe
Yeah.
you're on,
Are you on mobile or
on a
computer?
different screen.
You can enlarge it.
Okay. No, now I can see. I think yeah, it was my settings actually. Maybe I had the. Yeah, it disappeared again.
Can I just take over for a couple of minutes? That is okay. Just for housekeeping, so I can see a few names that we don't recognize.
Brother Naveed, I have got the confirmation from them.
Okay, from all 3 of them?
2 actually.
Abdul Salam Musa, 3rd one.
Okay. So you can ask directly, Brother Abdul Salam.
Naam, yes.
Brother, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. I initially, when I got on, it said that the registration was closed. And I just happened to go back to my phone and just happened to look again. And it says that I had an invitation to join, so I'm joining late. Give me.
Okay. So could you send us your details on
the chat?
Message on the chat, please.
What do you want from me, brother?
Your email address and your phone number.
Certainly, will do.
Okay, could you send it to Brother Atiq? He's the co-host, inshallah.
All right, that takes us to 51. Ready to go, Bismillah. Module 2. I think, you know what you can do actually, maybe if you want to, you can pause the recording and restart it, so you will have it all broken down by module if you want to do that.
Okay.